So hi, I'm Kelsey Stein, National Preconstruction Technology Leader at SKANSKA. This is my co-presenter, Henrik. He's part of the Digital Innovation Manager in SKANSKA, Sweden. With us, we also have Dave Tyner, who is from Autodesk and has really been guiding us through this VR journey over the past few years. Lastly, I'd like to mention Alberto Arenas. He's not here today, but he was instrumental in the BIM360 and Forge design automation service that we're going to be discussing. So as many of you know, the current workflow to get from Revit into an immersive environment is pretty difficult. Unless you're a 3ds Max expert like Henrik or Dave, it's very, very tough. Now, there are additional options. You can go to sort of one-click solutions, and those are great. We use those a lot. But the problem is none of them offer all the functionality we need. It's very difficult to get BIM data into our immersive environments, and it's also very difficult to have all the functionality that we need. For example, we're really interested in cost and schedule data. Another key issue is the data preparation time. Now, it takes a long time to get this information into a VR experience. And that leaves us very little time to actually craft the experience. And that's where the value is. Now, we started experimenting with cloud workflows last year. We were using the Revit to Live to Stingray process. And that helped. This year, we're expanding on that, and we're actually accessing Revit files from the cloud using BIM360. We've replaced Live with Forge, and we've replaced Stingray with Unity and Unreal. Now, the benefit of doing this is that we're able to have a variety of output formats. So AR, VR, desktop, mobile, tablet. Also, it's better because it decreases the amount of data preparation time. Forge automates this process, so we no longer have to do it. Now that gives us much more time to work on the experience where there's value. It's great. We can let the computers do the boring, repetitive tasks, and we can spend more time being creative. So, a few of the benefits. First off, functionality. Now, as construction managers, we're very interested in cost and schedule data in an immersive environment. So this process helps us do that. Also, the multiple output formats that I mentioned earlier. And then also we're going to discuss, collaboration and shared development. Now, Henrik has made some amazing immersive templates that we can reuse all over the globe. They're repeatable and scalable on a variety of any size projects. Lastly, delivery speed. Now, this automation allows us to essentially update a model in VR every single day if we want to. Now, if you would have told me a year ago we could do that, that's pretty crazy. But with Forge Design Automation Service, we can do that today. So we're going to take you through that process. First off, workflow for BIM360 and Forge. Then we're going to jump into the game engine. Henrik's going to discuss Unity, and we're also going to discuss Unreal. And then also we're going to show some demo with some output formats. And then Dave is going to show some really exciting latest developments that Autodesk is working on. So first off, BIM360 and Forge. Now, this is a really amazing tool that they've come up with. If you have a BIM360 account, you just create a new project for your Forge Design Automation Services file. Now, there's 3 pieces to that. There's the configuration folder, the input, and the output folder. Now, the configuration folder is where you put all the scripts. Now, there's a baseline set of scripts that Autodesk can provide. But the beauty, if you have scripting ability, like Henrik here, is that you can customize those scripts. Now, the other great thing is that you can also automate this. So these scripts run on whatever you put in the input folder. So here's a little video. You can either upload those scripts from your local server, you can upload it from another BIM360 project, or most importantly, you can actually point that to another BIM360 project, like your architect's file. And when it does that, if the architect updates the file, it'll automatically run this automation. And so we can have the latest up-to-date files on a daily basis. You can also set the automation to run once a week or once a month or at milestones in the project. So it's very customizable and it's very automated. It's really great. Now, you can see we drag and drop the folder in here, or sorry, the file. It processes, and now we go to the output folder, and it automatically outputs whatever we want. Now, in this case, we want FBX and CSV files. Those are what we're going to import into Unity. But you can have it basically create anything. You could have it create a 3ds Max file or individual FBXs for all of your Revit IDs, whatever you want. Anything that you can write a script for, you can make it happen. So that was the brief summary of Forge. If you guys have any questions, there's additional information in the PowerPoint and the handout, which are loaded up online. And you can also, we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. And take your pictures now if you need to write down this information. So next, we're jumping into Unity. So if you remember, we had 3 files that we processed in Forge: the FBX, the CSV for cost, and the CSV for schedule. So really simply, we're just going to drag and drop those into this amazing template that Henrik has created, and we're ready to go. Now here's a quick example of what that looks like. And you may say, okay, well that's great. I have Revit data in an immersive environment. Okay, what do we do with that? Well, the amazing thing is that once you have data in there, you can slice and dice and filter and view it any way you want. And the reason we want to do that is to explain knowledge and help our clients and our designers and even our own internal teams understand the project. The more, the more people understand, the better the project you're going to have and the more risk you're going to mitigate. Yeah. So now we're going to hop into Unity, and Henrik's going to go through and show some of these features that we're talking about.
All right. So what you see here is the application running. I mean, the output of what we have done in Unity. And as you can see, I have some buttons up here, and I can, bring up the slider for the playback of the time animation, and control this like this, and play out how the project will, be constructed. This is, of course, interactive, so I can, at any time, move and look around. So we'll just play to the end here. You can see the period being erected. And now we'll soon come to the end, like this. All right. So this is a really good presentation tool when we bid for projects, to take this to the client and explain this is how we want to, build the project. We have that information about the time connected to the BIM model, and it's very scaled down. There are only a few buttons to keep to know about, so our project manager can go there and feel really confident that he can control this application, and that's really useful. What we also have is a cost panel like this. So you can, at any time, see, what activities are going on, what categories are those activities in, and so on. And we can, view that in any way we like. So this is a really simple example template that we used, but this can, of course, be customized in any way. And this is, of course, really useful, not only to present to the client, but also within the team. When you prepare this, to understand the data and, so on.
It also helps when you have discussions with the client. A lot of times the client's focused on interiors or something like that, and that's a very valuable part of the project. But if you're looking at value engineering or trying to decrease cost, It can go much further if you start looking at, say, the concrete package or the steel package. So by visualizing that cost with those pie charts, we can actually start to have those conversations with the client and shift their focus.
Yeah, and as you can see, we can also access all the BIM properties of all objects in the model. So we can go around here and look more carefully on, something that we think looks, wrong. Even though there won't be anything wrong with this, so yeah.
We can also have conversations with the with the designers to make sure we're ensuring the design intent of the project. And so this is a really great tool for that as well.
Yeah. So it's a very simple example, and if you know a little bit of Unity, you can, customize your own things in here. But this is the template that can be used by any business unit within Skanska, and the workflows that we set up. Anyone would probably be able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And, and another great thing that you can also use this tool internally. So for example, when I was going through and reviewing this project a few weeks ago with our scheduler, just to make sure I had everything correct, he found 4 or 5 different times that he could optimize the schedule on this project just by being able to visualize the process. So he had already gone through and done the schedule using P6, but just that extra ability to visualize the data and contextualize the data allowed him to optimize the schedule. And the great thing with Forge is that you can go back, rerun that simulation, or rerun the process, and have that new schedule available for you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
so next,
so
once we have this in Unity, we can of course output in other formats as well. So this is the desktop or touchscreen format. You can also use it on a large touchscreen when you present this. But you can also take it into, for instance, VR. Yeah. So Kelsey is going to
You're going to show that now? Yeah.
Yep. So Henrik, quick question on that data.
Yeah.
So you got the geometry in automatically, which is great. But since the geometry is just the physical representation of the object, you need the data, right? Now, what's the advantage of bringing in that data? It's just a pile of data, right? Like you see it, if you go to your Properties tab there.
Yeah.
It's just a list, right? It's a list. And then the other 2 tabs are what take that list and turn it into quick and easy, understandable information in order to make a faster decision.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all that to say, getting your BIM data into the experience is great, but it's the baseline. Then you have to do something with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's see what it looks like in VR.
Yeah, works. So you can see we're in VR right now. This is the exact same project.
Well, we're not really in VR right now. So really
we are.
soon.
We are.
Now we are.
Okay, great. Hopefully you can see what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So this is the exact same project in VR. And as I point at different objects, you can see that the different BIM data is coming up. Now we can also run the slider and show the 4D construction sequencing that Henrik showed before. And so this is really valuable because it really gives you the additional information about scale and size. You can really get the feel for how large this pier project is. This is a ½ a mile long. So,
Kelsey?
yes.
One mistake I always make when demoing in VR is that I don't realize that every little tiny motion of my head is being transferred onto the screen. So when when you do that, just look in one place and scroll the thing. Because,
Okay.
Yeah.
I will do this.
Real slow.
Very slow.
Many an audience have fallen victim to my live VR demos.
Is this good?
Fantastic. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. And back.
Yeah. So to us, this is really amazing to make this really quickly. In VR with 4D simulation and data. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to switch back. And all right.
There.
I'm going to fix my hair. Okay.
All right, so now I'm going to show you exactly how we did this. So we take the FBX from the model preparation,
Yep.
and we put it into a folder here in Unity. We drag that game object then into the scene, like that. We take the CSV files that have been outputted at the same time, drag them to the lower right corner here, where I have some scripts that runs in editor in Unity, and I hit run. And that's what then ties all the BIM data to the game objects. Now we're talking game objects, not construction objects.
Yeah.
So all that data, it puts on the objects about, all the Revit information, all the cost information, all the schedule information.
Yeah.
And then I hit the third button, and that's what's, taking that data and creates the 4D simulation. So you see it creates some objects for the activities. And then I hit play, and it runs.
Yep.
Or output it to, the output formats that are available to us.
So just to sum up, that was 5 clicks from going upload, download, and 3 input clicks here. And we have not just Revit in VR, but Revit, all of its data in VR. So that's the big benefit here, is the additional functionality as opposed to sort of an out-of-the-box solution.
Yeah, and also this is the simple template. You can always add functionality when you're in here. There are lots of assets online for Unity that you can use and just plug in. Or you can write your own code to customize this any way you like. And the beauty of it is that you can focus on this if you know it. Yeah.
Yep, so you're not spending all the time doing data prep. You're spending it on creating the experience and adding that functionality.
Right.
So let's go through some of the benefits. Number 1, democratization of data. We're giving people access to data that didn't previously have it. Our clients are now able to understand the estimate and the schedule. We take for granted that we can convert 2D drawings into 3D models. But the majority of people can't do that, studies show. And so this tool is really powerful to help them understand the construction process. Also, the design team. We can make sure that we're on the same page and that what we're building is actually the design intent of the project. Also, it's a great tool internally. We can use it with our own estimators to make sure that we haven't doubled up on pricing. We can use it with our schedulers to optimize the project, like I mentioned earlier. And we can use it with our superintendents. They already know how they're going to build the project in their mind, but we can run the simulation and make sure that the way they're planning on building it actually matches the way we have estimated and scheduled the project. And finally, it's the public. We work on a lot of public projects and a lot of university projects, and this allows us to convey the construction process to the end users. So, if there's going to be, like this pier, 2-year project, we can show the public what's going to happen and what that process is going to be like. Now, it also helps us mitigate risk internally. As I mentioned earlier, we've got design review, schedule optimization, cost certainty. All of this is helping us make better and faster real-time decisions, and that leads to a better project. Now, lastly, the Forge Design Automation Service allows us to win more work. We're not spending all this time on data prep. We're spending time on the experience, so we can use this on a greater number of pursuits. It's no longer on the huge pursuits that have a big time scale and a big budget. We can use this on the smaller projects and help those projects win. Now, you might say, okay, all of this sounds great, but what if you don't have a Henrik or a Dave on your staff that can do all this scripting and all this programming? Well, Dave is here to show you another way.
Thank you, Kelsey. So, right, what if you don't have a Henrik on your team? Does that mean that you can't, create functionality? You can't get value from the experience, right? And if we can't get value from the experience, which I hesitate to use that word, but whatever, the experience, then nobody's going to invest, right? Because it costs $2 something costs $2, we can sell for $1, it doesn't work. So how do we get this scalable? And how do we deliver quantifiable value to customers so that we can scale the technology, so we can start to discover the problems that need to be solved and how this technology really applies to our industry, and how it can move it forward, because Dave Tyner needs to live in a virtual world, and if we can't cross the chasm and get to this nirvana where VR is ubiquitous, then that's not going to happen. So what my team and I are working on are ways to do that. So we partnered with NVIDIA. We ran through the holodeck, which I've tried a lot of VR experiences. I've made some, I've tried some. Holodeck, bar none, the best. In terms of tools and capabilities and flexibility, it's the best thing out there, period. So we got in there, we're lucky enough to try it. It's like, okay, this is awesome. It's lacking one thing, the data. We need data, right? We need data. Because all we're trying to do really for the construction process is get the data in, make a decision with the right stakeholders, get out. Oh wait, I forgot, we're back in, push the data back, right? And then get out. And that's how it has to be, because we can't sit here and have conversations about the technology. As long as the technology is the conversation, it's the wrong conversation, right? So what better than to just completely remove the data preparation process? So my team and I, Alberto Arenas, Simon B. In Sheffield, and Alan Edwards in Sheffield, we said, okay, let's take these new model coordination APIs in BIM360, and let's pipe them right into the holodeck. And so what we're able to do, and this is a proof of concept, just to say that whether you're a Unity developer, Unreal developer, Amazon engine developer, the engine that's coming developer, you need function, right? You need function. And then you need data to be piped in there. And when you have that combination, and when you can offload the complexity of creating the experience into the platform, right? And then the experience scales with the platform. And that's where the complexity belongs, is in the mechanics of the platform. And we've been asking you to absorb that, and you have been begrudgingly doing it. But now we're saying, let's offload it into the platform and just pipe it in to the experience in order to make a decision. So this is this whole idea of contextualization versus visualization. Do I have time for this? Okay, great. So this whole idea of contextualization versus visualization. I came up through industry. I worked for a big piping design company, and then I worked for a big power generation company. I was always into visualization, bringing these beautiful renders here. Check this out. And the guy's like, here, check out my AutoCAD screenshot that took 10 seconds and tells me way more than this 8-minute fly-through video you made over 5 months and darn near killed yourself. So does that resonate with anybody? That pain? Yes. Okay. Good.
That's what hands
Right.
back.
Right. And so when you walk into a construction office and you start talking about visualization and the value of visualization, they say, go talk to sales because we're trying to solve problems. And so we can't call it visualization. It's something else. It's different. And it's seeing your data in the immersive context. It's experiencing it. It's connected to the data. It's collaborative. It's functional. It's immersive. It's automated. It's bidirectional, end-to-end workflows, like I said. As new file formats are supported on the platform, right, those are supported in the engine. No more of this conversion nonsense. It's all centralized down to one, piped in. And that's how this is going to scale. That's how we're going to see value. And that's how Dave Tyner is going to live in a virtual world. So help me, please. So yeah, so this is to prove the concept that this works. If you went down and you saw this on the show floor, and did anybody see this in the NVIDIA booth on the show floor? Pretty rad, right? Incredible. Boom, collaborative, 3D spatial audio. Someone talks over here, you hear it in that ear. It's non-VR and VR collaborating. It's sending data back into BIM360, making a change in Revit, publishing that, refresh, here's that change, right? And then since you're tied to the platform, you have all the IDs Now you can really start creating that differentiating functionality. So it's really exciting time. Just the beginning. We're trying to move this forward. We need your help. So if you have an Autodesk representative, say, hey, we need this. We need this. Good. So here's what it's like, right? So we loaded the data onto this table. We're in this collaborative environment, full body VR. Alberto here is going to say, we're going into this room to solve a problem. You're here, you're here, you're here, and let's go. Boom, full scale. We have all the tools, all the functionality, right? We're solving the problem. I can't even tell you about half of the functionality in the time I have to talk because there's so much. We can record video at 60 frames a second. As you'll see, I'm about to pull out a camera. I'm going to take a picture. And when I do, that picture is going to be sent into BIM360, attached to the clash issue as an attachment for the Revit designer to look at that and say, oh, OK, that's how we're doing it, that's how we're doing it. Oh, that was a little scribbly. I wonder what that meant. I think I'll send an email like I always used to. Oh, no, wait, there's a video. Now I'm going to watch the video for 5 minutes. Oh, that's why they did it. That's what they're doing. Cool. Boom. Done. Problem solved. And for that, $7 trillion industry with razor-thin margins and a waste problem, I think that maybe making better and faster decisions in the immersive context is going to help those margins, right? Help those margins. Margins get help. Dave Tyner lives in VR. See how that works? OK, great. So this is back to you, Kelsey.
Yep.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
More?
All right.
All right.
Yes, so let me just close, if I may,
Yeah, go for it.
by saying, let's move this into the place where it needs to be, right? Let's get rid of that data preparation nightmare that we've all been facing, right? Let's automate it. Let's automate it so that we can just focus on delivering value in the experience, whether it's something out of the box like holodeck, whether it's some incredible piece of art, technology art that Henrik has created, right? Super versatile, speaks to the pre-sales, sales, post-sales cycle. Everybody gets it through BIM360, desktop connector out to everybody. So if you have an Unreal, SKANSKA's huge, and they got places all over the place. And maybe this office has somebody who knows Unreal. OK, fine. If they're a part of the project, desktop connector, streams down, plug it into the engine, go. Henrik, Unity, go. I mean, it's really a game changer, and we're excited, and we hope you give it a try. So with that, thank you, and I'll pass it to Kelsey.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say these are a few examples of how SKANSKA is using cloud automation to provide repeatable and scalable and global solutions. So thank you for your time, and we're happy to take any questions you have. Thanks.
Yeah. Right. So any questions? So sorry, if you have a question, you can maybe walk up to that microphone. Yeah, because it's being recorded, so it's good. Yeah.
They make us say that.
Yeah, sorry.
So you guys says it was bidirectional, meaning if you move something in the VR model, will it move in the other models that you're working with?
No, because you absolutely don't want that. You don't want anyone with access to your VR project. Next time you open a Revit, everything's going to be twisted up. But you do need to be able to move stuff, right? So we look at it and say, what do you need? Markups. Let's let the Revit person do all the movement, but they need to know what to move and how to move it. And
but if it's the design team, then they know what they can move around and what they can't during that virtual reality.
Sure.
So it was just a question.
Okay, that's a great question, and man, we're going to get there, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get there, one step at a time for sure.
Yeah.
Hello, I got a question. I don't know if you guys consider developing a plugin with 3D Studio Max that you can probably use with Navisworks or out of Revit and Civil 3D and all these different things, where you can just export the model directly out of the vertical packages from Autodesk as an add-on, or so you would get those models and create at least certain components and develop something like that based on the idea that SKANSKA developed.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I just wanted to add on to the previous question as well. The great thing about this tool is that you can actually do, you know, measure and markup. You can do it in perpendicular, so X, Y, Z. So if you are moving, like in this example, we were moving a duct, you can measure that exact distance and mark it up. So it's very similar to Navisworks, but it's just in VR, and so it has that added, you know, functionality. So if you do take a snapshot and then send it back to BIM360 as a RFI, it's very clear exactly where you have to move it with the exact dimensions. And so, yeah, for us, for clash detection and coordination, you know, we don't want to be, you know, we don't want those changes. But I'm sure designing in VR is definitely on the list, and I'm sure it's something that they're working on.
Right.
That's going to happen, yes.
Yeah.
Some would argue that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah?
Yep. Another question.
How long did it take to get from your Revit product to this platform? What's the time?
So for
Me?
you? Yeah.
Yeah, for NVIDIA.
Okay, so for the NVIDIA workflow, it took about 10 seconds or something like that. So it, oh, okay, no, I'm sorry. It's BIM360, so it's cloud, right? And it's the model coordination APIs, so it's your different views, and they're combined to show the clashes and the clash issues. So what we're streaming in is the view that we've created, and that took 10, well, 15, probably 15 seconds.
Is it possible to take that on the microphone?
Yeah, sorry, it's hard. It's
Sorry.
even hard for us to hear you in the microphone.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
interesting.
So just curious about the file types. I know that we're talking a lot about Revit, but you know, the unfortunate reality of, you know, job site is we have to still rely on some of the CAD product. And does it work with the CAD product as well? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, we agree. You know, we're interested in other file types as well. I think just to start, you know, you have to start somewhere. So they started with Revit because generally this is more of a design tool than a construction tool. But once again, I don't want to speak for Autodesk, but we're definitely asking them, you know, we want other file formats as well. And so I'm assuming that's on the roadmap.
So internally we have also very similar workflows when it comes to Navisworks and IFCs and things like that as well. But they're not quite as polished as this one.
Yeah.
But for us, that's a way to show Autodesk how we want it, you know, to produce a workflow and then present it to Autodesk, and they can do something like this.
And if I may add a little color to that. So with the Forge workflow, right, basically if Max can import it, then you have that format, right? But that is not streaming. And that's where we have Revit, I think model coordination supports Revit, DWG, possibly DWF with IFC in the queue. It's the next thing we're working on after AU. So yeah, definitely trying to take care of those data aggregators. And then so that's it. And it really speaks to that part of letting the experience scale with the platform. So it might not be happening as fast as you want, but you're not having to maintain and support and update and go through all that stuff if that's not in your budget, workflow, whatever. But you'll get it eventually.
First, I want to say congratulations. That looks amazing, which I'll put together. On the Unity side, I saw a lot of metadata in there. On the VR side, which is a lot of text in VR, which is nauseating to read usually. So how are y'all, how's the users responding to all that text?
I mean,
right down there, you know, in front of their eyes and everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can work with that. If that's not something that users like, we can, you know, refactor that in Unity in some other way.
Okay. This is just a template, so we're always building, and each version is going to be better, you know, than the next. So
for now, they're okay with all that text, or at least for this demo.
For this demo, they absolutely were. And this project also has a lot of data in the model. as you saw. And the templates also, you know, maybe when we made that template, we worked with a lot smaller projects, so then it was fine. But with this project, you know.
Yeah, we scaled up and we realized we might have to adjust the template for that scale.
But that's the thing, we can work on scale, you know.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First off, yeah, I second that. This is really exciting, and so nice work. What are the odds that this gets folded into the next generation of 3D coordination, the model collaboration? And then also, are you thinking of this as something other than a screenshot and an email, more so getting, let's say, connected to issues so that things that are identified in the VR can be tracked and not just an email chain?
Okay, yeah. So to your first question, not sure. So the purpose was to get it here, demonstrate that A, we understand our customer, we understand their needs and the problems they're trying to solve, we know why they're trying to solve them, right? Generate a swell of interest to say, okay, there's a next step to this. What is that going to be? How do we drive this a little deeper so that we can show the metrics at scale and put that out, right? So that's the purpose. Without putting timelines or promises or any of that stuff, that's what we're trying to do. Okay, and the second part of your question, since I'm working on 3 hours sleep, can you please ask that again?
Yeah, sure. So taking it beyond a screenshot.
Right, okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So of course, that, right? So right now, it doesn't go into an email. It actually does push back up into the model coordination API. It's attached as an image to the Clash. So, right.
Cool.
So that's
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then, of course, like I said, man, as the platform gets more stuff, right? As it scales up, that stuff you get, right, in the experience. So now it's the same thing. You get into LMV, BIM360. Okay, that. In here, that. Right? It's very familiar. Same. Doing the same thing. So that's the idea.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
In the Unity platform, you kind of demonstrated the ability to graphically show the progression through the project, and you focused mostly on a structural and architectural example that was relatively linear. What capability have you found in integrating the systems, identifying sequencing, and kind of loading your costing and scheduling according to those things as the building goes up?
I mean, the platform is, of course, very general, so you can do whatever you like, and there's probably someone that has done it before. Probably also, you know, uploaded it to the internet somewhere. You know, you can find amazing assets when it comes to Unity, loading data sources, loading whatever into the experience as well. So, I mean, if it's not there and you have someone that can code, you can probably do it yourself as well, because what we have now is access to the data, and if we have access to the data in the model, we can also, you know, connect that to other data sources. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Most of the stuff we saw was on the architectural side or some structural stuff in there. I'm curious, because I've dealt with some of the larger scale models, just the coordinate system issues with some of the texturing. When you start to get in a real world environment, like geotech component and stuff, it starts to, I mean, some of the models now start to work properly. Textures don't work, you know, everything's local system here. You guys are on local system, so that's why some of this kind of works. It's kind of confined to that area. I'm curious if you guys have had larger scaled models, you know, have issues with them in this environment.
Yeah.
Can I speak to this? So two things. So one, and Dave can probably say it better than me, but I'm just going to say it. The Forge Design Automation Service, actually, you know, you can go in and optimize. We didn't talk about it, but it spits out a report. Maybe you should talk about it. About how, you know, about how you can, like, polygons and meshes, and it gives you the data of what it's doing, of how it's optimizing the models. And so you can read that, links to Power BI, so you can read that information and then go back and edit your scripts, like edit your recipe to, you know, to optimize the project. So if you do have those issues, you can go back and fix it. And the second thing.
You guys just move it? You guys just move those objects? Are you
Yeah.
guys okay.
So if you're talking about, geolocation or location and transformations, we can of course also do that there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite a large project, but
Yeah.
you can work with any size project as long as you take care of the transformations, and you can do that within the automation system as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then on the Unreal side, I mean, Dave has linked in some enormous models into this. I mean, I've seen some incredible.
On the holodeck side?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the holodeck side.
Like
yeah.
you linked in.
Right. So I don't know if you guys saw last year's main stage presentation where Kelsey killed it, but the model that we used, we were using Stingray, and when I was in there, right, when every object was loaded, thousands and thousands of objects on how many stories was that building? 100?
14.
Like 1,500
Yeah.
stories. It was huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
So no, it was tall. It was a lot, and a lot of stuff, and a lot of draw calls on the engine, and I felt it. And I'm making the video, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I put that same model in here, and I grab it off the table, and it's like a little toy, and like scale. It's nothing. So whatever magic they're doing, that you can bulk load a ton of data in there. My question, and for yours, for the, are you buildings or more infrastructure?
Yeah, I'm civil, mostly just
Civil, right? Okay, so that's sort of unexplored territory a little bit, right? Like I think that's the next phase is like how do we get that data in there?
Well, it brings up another question because I'm really curious on who the end user would be on some of that stuff. When we deal with projects like that, it's mostly older clients, they're well established. So I'm curious how this is going to work when you're sitting there with older clients and you have to put them in this environment to make these decisions. I understand that the younger guys, they don't mind because they grew up with that tablet in their hands. But the older gentlemen with, that are funding some of these projects, do they really want to immerse themselves in these environments? I mean,
Can I answer this question?
Yeah,
Because
go for
I
it.
actually found that, and also when we are custom making, functionality, we can also strip down on functionality and make it really easy to use, And we found that we also are targeting an audience that didn't really want to, work with 3D models. When we have, very easy to use teleportation, navigation and all that. So actually people coming in, trying it and loving it because it's so much easier than, controlling it in Navisworks or whatever. So, yeah.
And also, in the demo that we gave, we had half-hour slots all day, every day, filled the whole time. Every age range, demographic, whatever, people in there. The biggest skeptics getting in there, going through it, understanding that the value of that, and 100% came out saying, we would use this. This is fantastic.
I can see it based on discipline too, because architects, this is their wheelhouse. Like they love this, but the civil guys, they're on the older side. It's really hard to get those guys to understand some of this technology. So, just curious about kind of.
So I think you should try it, and also a good thing here, take those guys in there and experience it, because the thing is, in here as well, in Dave's fantastic platform, you can, accompany them in the model and show them how it works. So it's also one way of, getting them into the system.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, like Henrik's template that he set up, that's why we're using Unity. We have these multiple different output formats. So it doesn't just have to be VR, It can be a desktop version, or it can be mobile or tablet. So
they just want to play a video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll
do that
output the
too.
video. Yeah. Right.
So,
Yep, thank you.
Have any poll with NVIDIA that can get us holodeck access?
No, I mean, yeah. So I will always say no to that in an audience type situation. Now, like eventually, of course, right? That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do, is like democratize that, and trying to say to the Unities and the Unreals and the game engine asterisk, this is the model, right? Just function, man. Give them function, and then pipe in the data and see, right? It's a very simple formula.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm really not, I'm just a beginner in all this, but I'm wondering if you could take that state and why do I have to go through the HoloLens when I can have something like this on my 52-inch monitor?
Yeah.
Maybe I have two mouses and I can make up the same markups.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just, some really not just.
But it's exactly that. You can, as Dave said, so you don't have to go into the model. You can also experience it on a computer, you know, in pretty much the same way, right?
Yeah, and there's a big difference. I mean, anyone who's used Navisworks or even BIM360, LMV, anything that you're not immersed, you're disconnected in some way, like sense of scale is off completely. Like I was working with SNC last year on this hydroelectric dam. It's 65 Revit file, gigantic thing. And flying around in Stingray is like, okay, like preparing it, getting it ready. And then I jumped in for the first time in VR, and I was sitting inside a 30-foot radius pipe, like, oh my God, this is, and these gates that are like 2 feet thick and 900 feet tall that hold back an enormous amount of water. Like, that's so impactful, right? And that's sort of what's lost in the translation. I'm not saying you need VR for every problem. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, but there are certain, and probably quite a few situations where safety is concerned, right? Where it's like, okay, we have this piece of equipment, and that's another thing that the holodeck is so amazing. Like I said, I can't even talk about all the things that it does, but like if you have a piece of equipment, am I?
No,
oh, okay. And I can just like spawn that piece of equipment in the experience from my file system, okay, and say, okay, does it fit through here? Nope. Where is it clipping? Measure, measure. Up it goes, right? So there are plenty of use cases for it, but certainly we're not trying to say you need VR for everything, like Dave's life will be someday. Yes.
Now, the other question. Over here in the showroom, we just had everybody in the same.
Uh-huh.
Is the idea to be demo?
Right. No, exactly.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm from Sweden, Kelsey in Florida, Dave in Denver.
Yeah.
We've done this together, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to give you a real world example too. So this video is actually the pier that you saw. It's just in NVIDIA instead. And this is a real clash detection and coordination issue that I had to deal with. So this is, you know, 4 different trades going back and forth with email, you know, trying to coordinate with the architectural model. Took tons of time. You know, and the idea using VR is that, okay, you don't need this for every single one, but this is multiple coordination issues, multiple trades. Let's get everybody in the environment at the exact same time, go through, flag the issues, you know, move walls, follow ducts, move piping, find a solution, you know, document that solution, and everybody's out. So for that real-time decision-making, it's really, really powerful. Yeah, you don't need it every day. You know, Navisworks is great, or BIM360, you know, clashes, that's great. But for specific instances, this is 100 times better.
Yeah, and like we're saying, one thing I said to customers who went through the experience was, okay, look, so if we're talking like this, right, but I'm really like over there somewhere, I had to point out that first, here we are talking, and you see all my motions and all the little nuance of what I'm saying, which you just pick up intuitively because you've been doing it your whole life based on the body language that somebody's giving you, right? So that's non-quantifiable, but it's happening. Second, I noticed that the questions were around solutions, right? Oh, I can use it for this. Can it do this? Can it do, yes, it can do that. Okay, great. It's not, how much does it cost? How much space do I have to use, right? Because immediately you're seeing the value of it. And that's going back to that, the value. We got to deliver the value in order for the thing to scale. And so that's really, you know, that's at the heart of this thing is helping the customers.
That example right there, you can imagine that being an accountable room. The guy who's actually going to service that for the rest of the
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's tied
Because he's got service issues with
Yeah.
precisely.
And you can tie it to FM too, so you can actually like climb up on a ladder in there and see if you can fit
Yeah.
your hand in there to turn the valve. I mean, it's very powerful for that as well.
Right.
Can you give a rough cost estimate if I want to do exactly this with the 4 trades going in? What do I need to invest that this can be done? And second, do the 4 trades need to be in the same place physically, or can they be geographically located and just good internet connection is there and then?
Yeah.
So, Dave?
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So the beta. Okay, so my colleague Alberto Arenas is the one who's really driving this. He's the one who's interfacing with the Forge team, and I'm not trying to give you a cop-out answer, but I'm just saying that as far as I know, and don't quote me on this or sue me later, right now it's in beta, and generally when we have things in beta, it's free. So for right now, it's free as long as it's in beta. He said without knowing that was the exact answer, but it's probably true. How much will it cost eventually? I think that depends on how successful the beta is, how much people are using it, how much compute is it actually consuming, and is it a good deal on both sides?
And on hardware, it's some computers and some headsets. And
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also to your second question, you can be anywhere, collaborating in this. It's like a Skype call in a model. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Any other questions? Oh.
Come.
I've been in 3D coordination sessions where someone gets frustrated.
Yeah.
And so then, that becomes a barrier to communication. You find that that's easier to deal with
Yeah.
gestures and, immersive.
Yeah, so, I mean, since this is very intuitive and it's, it almost works as it would in real life, people, tend to get more emotionally stable because they don't need to get frustrated because you don't understand or you don't, get the message in a way. So I would say that it helps the conversational climate, and also it resolves the issue much faster.
Yeah, that's number one.
And I think it speaks, your question is a great one, and one that we need to explore, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it speaks to that translation thing, where contextually is represented on paper, translating cycles, robbing from decision cycles, because you're like, how does that look, how's it look? And then this other guy's doing the same thing, but it looks a little different.
Yeah.
And then there's that, because he didn't sleep enough or get enough coffee, or this guy's in a fight with his wife or something, whatever, all that subjective human stuff. But no, there it is, boom, boom, boom. There is no translation. So maybe that just goes away. Maybe it makes it worse. I don't know. Let's find out. But the fact that that's the conversation now, yes.
Yeah, love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Great question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.